Hi, I am Hannah Ketterman, and I am so excited to be a part of the Shake Up Learning Summer PD series. This is Level Up using generative AI to escape the ordinary. Like I said, I'm Hannah. I am a former English teacher and a current digital learning coach for Temple ISD. I love building capacity in a way that really lifts teachers up instead of deflating them. And I'm always excited when I get the opportunity to talk about innovation and increasing student lift. You can find me on Instagram at Hannah Beth Teaches. I'm not cool enough for TikTok, but I do have an Instagram, so be sure to check me out there. What is an escape room anyway? Some of you have probably tried like the breakout EDU or the breakout boxes, and a digital escape room is pretty similar. It's a series of activities that are designed to engage students. It's created around a storyline, and it has a set of locks that open when the student has performed something correctly. Why are they awesome? Well, they're awesome for a million reasons. It really encourages collaboration. It increases your student engagement. It builds a lot of differentiated problem solving, and it really allows you to reconsider what assessment may look like in your classroom. As you are thinking about building out your escape room, you've really got 6 things that you need to do. You've got to consider your objectives, create your activities, use AI to write your story, create locks and write clues, create your spaces, and then finally test, play, and share. So we're going to briefly go through how to do each of those steps. So the first thing that you really want to do is consider your objectives. So when we're talking about objectives, what we're really talking about is by the time the activity is over, what do students really need to know? You also want to consider your purpose of the activity. Are you trying to teach new material? Are you trying to review old material? Or are you trying to assess material? Really, for an escape room that's going to be timed like 45 minutes to an hour, we recommend that you have 3 to 4 objectives or skill targets overall. Okay. The next thing that you do is you create your activities. Do not worry about the escape part yet. Okay. All that you're doing is you're using your teacher brain to create activities that fulfill your objectives. Now, I strongly recommend that you have a build up opportunity. So you start with your lowest rigor objective with the first activity and then move up from there. What's really important here is that you do not panic. Repeat after me. Do not panic. I'm already amazing. We all have millions of activities, it seems like, activities coming out of our ears, of things that we have like wanted to do, but we haven't really gotten the chance to do, or those extra resources at the end of our curriculum that we always thought, ooh, that might be a great thing, but we weren't really able to do it at that time. Take those and turn them into your activity. You really should not have a need to create something completely from scratch. So, where can I find that content? Look in the places that you never have time to finish. All right. So your unit worksheets, your extension material, standardized test questions, your supplemental spiral content material, you have so much that is already at your disposal that really creating something from scratch doesn't make sense. Now, you may be changing the format of it, right? You may be changing what it looks like, but that is so much easier than creating from scratch something from nothing. So after you have identified your objectives and kind of figured out your activities, the next thing that you do is you use AI to create your story. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And you're going to leave here today with a really great bot that will actually write your AI story for you. So make sure that you stick around till the end. What you really want to do is create 3 to 4 rooms that tell a story with a buildup that you can attach your activities to. The next thing that you want to do is create your locks and write the clues. So a few things that you want to think about is things like letter combinations, word scrambles, jigsaw puzzles, matching activities. Almost anything can be a lock. Once you have figured out what you want your locks to be and you have your AI story, you have the chance to build your rooms. And for me, this is where things get really, really fun and you can use your creativity. You're going to organize and build each of your rooms, really thinking about how kids are going to check themselves. How can I provide hints? And I always, always recommend that you create a physical handout for students to keep track of their progress. That's really helpful if your breakout room goes into multiple days, if you have to modify your room for some kids, or, if you teach kids who just can't keep up with their stuff, which happens a lot. Finally, you're going to share your room and test. Now, this is one of those things where one broken link can make or break you. So make sure that you test and test again before you give it to kids. Let's talk about some of the most popular AI tools to use. So ChatGPT is a lot of the time what I use to create my story. I love building images in Canva Magic and in Ideogram. So if you've never heard of Ideogram, it's a really cool image generator. And what it actually does is it takes your prompt and it runs it through its own language prompt first and expands it so that you get a much more specific image. You can then take that expanded prompt and tweak it and make changes until you get an image that you like. So I've used the digital escape room script generator that I'm going to give to you at the end of this presentation to generate a storyline for me. And I want to show you how I use those things to create AI images. The first thing that I want to do is I want to create an image of my character. So I'm going to use Ideogram to do that. It's one of my favorite image generators, even with everything else that has recently come out. This is Ideogram. You can see other images that people have generated, but all that I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to click this button that says describe what you see. So my digital escape room script generator has generated a character of a librarian for me. So I'm going to modify the description. I'm going to copy and paste in here. And this is giving me a lot of abstract language and not a ton of concrete language. So I'm going to change some of these abstract terms into more concrete terms so that hopefully I can get a better image of my character. So a female librarian who is friendly and wise. She has silver hair pulled into a neat bun and wears glasses perched on her nose. Now, I don't think that I really need this. All right. She has several books in her hands and she looks like she is about to tell you something very important. I like this part about her voice. So I'm going to leave that in because I just want to see what it's going to do. I'm also going to put at the end a few different style words. So cinematic, photography, fantasy, and let's hit generate. So it is going to wait in the slow queue for me because this isn't something that I pay for. So you get a specific number of credits. You get a specific number of credits a day that you can use for the slow queue. And our generation is complete. So let's see what we can find. So it gives me 4 different choices. And honestly, I think that I like the first one. So over here on the right-hand side is my original prompt. And then you'll see down below the magic prompt. So let's look at this magic prompt and see what was changed. So it says a cinematic photograph of a kind-faced female librarian. She holds several antique books bound in leather. Her expression is conveying warmth and gentle wisdom. Behind her, towering bookshelves filled with aged volumes reach towards a high arched ceiling. Okay, so you can see that what Ideogram did was it took my original prompt here and expanded it into something much more specific so that I can adapt it if and when I need to. I really like this version of my librarian. So I am going to save the image to use in my escape room. And then 11 Labs is also a really great resource, particularly for AI voices. It has a pretty strong free tier that we'll talk about in just a minute, but I think really having these 4 tools at your disposal are going to give you everything that you need to build a great escape room. Next, let's talk about presentation recommendations. So my very first recommendation is start with what you know. You can build an escape room on absolutely any platform. I started building escape rooms through Google Slides. And then once I started getting more ideas about how I wanted them to be a little bit more complex, I moved into Canva and finally into Genie. Now, Genie is my presentation method of choice. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why that is. So why Genie? What is it about it that's so awesome? Well, first of all, it's pretty. Don't we all like something that is really visually appealing? I love that there are a lot of templates that are available. So if you're not super comfortable with building something from scratch, you can work with a template that's already built out and a storyline that's already built out. Once you kind of figure out the interface, it gets really easy and it becomes really customizable. The best part of Genially to me is the interactivity. It makes it really seamless and allows you to build interactive images that are really easy to navigate, even for younger kids. So you're not worrying so much about like making sure that all of your hyperlinks are correct or not broken, because it does all of that in the platform for you. There is also an individual responses feature that dropped about 8 months ago, and that's really helpful. Now, I will say, all of us as teachers have those tools that we just spend our money on, right? Genially is one of those tools for me. I find it very affordable. Having the second to the top tier plan is what I have. It's the expert plan, and I pay $119 a year. So for me, $119 in the grand scheme is something that I can do. I will say that I think that the free version is pretty robust, but I like having the individual responses feature and I like having all of the bells and whistles. So it is a tool that I pay for out of pocket. So let's talk about the AI part of this. What's really important when you're using AI is that you have to remember garbage in, garbage out. So the more specific that you are in your prompting, the better your output of the AI is going to be. Really taking time to specify your prompt is going to help you get what you want the first time. I'm a former high school English teacher, so color coding is my jam. You can see here that I have a prompt that I have color coded so that we can kind of see what the pieces are. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is tell the AI what it's good at. Remember that it has almost every job at its disposal, and so it really helps if you take your prompt and you tell it what its job is. So in this case, you're a professional development specialist who specializes in educational pedagogy and student engagement. The next thing that you want to do is give it a task that has both an audience and a time frame. So you'll notice that I've said that I'm building an escape room for adults who are learning how to use generative AI, and I want the entire escape room to be completed in about 20 minutes. Finally, I want to get really specific about what I need. You'll notice that I've said I need 5 different rooms that are connected with a common story. The first room is an intro room, the 3 rooms have tasks, and the last room is a concluding room. I want it to be about one character. I don't want you to introduce any other characters. And then in this orange section, you'll see to give it your standards so that it can plan accordingly. Feel free to copy and paste your standards. Say, these are the standards that I need. These are the objectives that I'm covering. You'll notice that in this orange section, I've said that the first part's about prompt engineering. The second part is about generating an image. And the third part is about exploring resources. Those are my standards for this room. And then finally, one of my favorite tricks is to make sure that the AI understands before you get started. What that will do if you ask, do you understand the task? What it'll do is it'll summarize the task for you for a moment before it actually completes the task. That means that you can look at that summary to mitigate any issues that you think that you might have before you get into the middle of it and maybe you're getting lost. So asking if it understands is a great way to solve a lot of problems before you have them. Let's talk about how to create your AI images. So you've already worked with ChatGPT to build out your story, and now it's time to create your characters. With the right prompting, you will be given a description of a character. So you can see here, we've got this guy named CyberMax. ChatGPT gave me an incredibly detailed description of CyberMax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, kind of revise it, and rework the prompt to generate my image. So what I ended up putting in was a head to toe image of an eccentric and slightly nerdy 1980s Hispanic computer scientist wearing flashy attire, a lab coat with a black rock band t-shirt underneath, neon glasses hanging from his shirt, dark unkempt hair, and a wry smile. Now, here's another trick that you can use with image generators. If you have your prompt and then put a colon, give a couple of style suggestions, things like retro wave, cinematic, cartoon, or photography, and that will really inform the style of image that you get. So all of these images were generated using Canva Magic. I used kind of a mix of those 4 descriptors, and you can see that I have the same figure, but the figure looks pretty different depending on what style word I gave next to the description. Next, we're going to talk about AI voices. So this is 11 Labs. Again, with some specific prompting, you will get a script for your character. At that point, all that you have to do is go into 11 Labs, copy and paste your script from the AI into 11 Labs, pick your voice, and you're good to go. So I was really trying to channel Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in this specific escape room. So I believe that the voice that I used was called Austin Skater Boy. This is 11 Labs, and 11 Labs is one of the leading resources for AI generated voices. So I want to show you how you can take your script and turn it into an 11 Labs voice file. So the first thing that you want to do is click Voices. And there are literally hundreds of voices here that are available. So you can filter down your voices based on language, accent, gender, and age. And this is going to give you some choices so you can click it.
Hello, I'm Jane, a great voice for any form of narration where you need a strong, older female voice.
And sample the audio. And once you've decided that you like that audio, all you have to do is click Add. After that, you can click Use. This is where you can copy and paste your script. So here is my script that I pulled from my digital escape room script generator bot. You can see that I can do up to 5,000 characters at a time. And then over here on the right, I can change the way that I would like my voice to sound. I can change the speed. I can change the stability. With the stability, the more you move it to the right, the more stable it will sound, but it will also sound more monotone. The same thing goes for similarity. So the higher the similarity, the kind of more monotone it is, the lower the similarity, the more range that you have. The style exaggeration is also going to be important. And that's where you want to consider your story. Do you want this to be a really serious character, or do you want this to have a character that has a lot of range? Now you notice as I move up, it's going to say over 50% may lead to instability. What that means is that you may get some glitches in your speech. So I do want it to be exaggerated, but I'm going to leave it at about 40%. Once I have figured these out, then I can click Generate Speech.
Welcome, young detectives. I've summoned you to solve a perplexing mystery. A renowned author's manuscript has vanished from this very library. The clues are hidden within the informational texts around you. Can you unveil the author's purpose and recover the missing manuscript before time runs out?
Now, once I've decided that I like that, I can click this download button, and it is going to download as an MP3 file. Now that we have both our character and her voice, let's talk about how to put them together. So what I've done is I've gone into Canva and I have put my image of my librarian in. And what I want to do is click it and then click background remover. And that is going to completely remove the background. So now I can put my beautiful librarian wherever I'd like to. Then I'm going to hit share, download, and I'm going to make sure to select PNG with a transparent background. And then I'll hit download. So I now have both my librarian downloaded and my voice downloaded. So in Genially, I can come up to the left-hand side, click Create Genially, and I always like to start with a blank creation. What I do in Genially is I go to Insert, and then I can upload my image. Here's my librarian. I am going to bring her in just a little bit so that I can make her bigger. And that looks great. Okay, now what I do is I can add interactivity, and that's the little finger button. Then I can click play audio. I can click and upload my 11 Labs audio. And I'm going to call it Librarian Intro. Save. Now, when I click present, and I click my librarian,
Welcome, young detectives. I've summoned you to solve a perplexing mystery.
she will
A renowned author's manuscript.
You'll also notice up here in the top right-hand corner that I can click Show Interactive Elements, and that little finger shows up in case I need a hint or I need to give my students a hint about where to go next. So you are about to get to experience an escape room journey of your own. The entire escape room was completely generated through AI, and here are the tools that were used. So I used ChatGPT to build up my script and descriptions, Canva Magic and Ideogram both gave me my images. I used the 11 Labs voice generator and sound generator for the voices and the sound effects that you'll hear. The image to video generator from Runway allowed some of my images to move. And then finally, for Cyber Max, I used the Runway lip sync tool to make it look like his mouth was moving as he was speaking. All of those things are things that I did not pay for. It was all done within the free tier system. So let's take a chance and try it. You can scan this QR code or you can go to this bit.ly to take you to the wonderful world of CyberMax. Go ahead and pause this video. Give yourself somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes to try out the escape room, and then we will come back and I'll show you some really great resources. Welcome back. I hope that you had a totally rad time with CyberMax. I also wanted you to leave with some resources that you can take and use later. So if you scan this QR code or go to the bit.ly, you'll be taken to this image right here where you will see a lot of resources. The first resource that we have is previously made escape rooms. I think that this is great because you can kind of see where I started. You can see that I started really simply with Google Forms and then moved through into things that were more and more complex. It's always a really great idea to just start where you are. It's completely okay if you're starting with something like Google Forms. It's completely okay if you decide to shoot for the stars and hit Genie the first time. Starting where you are is what's going to give you the confidence to keep going. The next resource that I have is an escape room generator. So let's talk about how to use the digital escape room script generator. So all you have to do is hit start. It's going to ask you if you're ready. And then it's going to ask you for the grade level, the subject area, and for your objectives. So I'm going to say that I am going to do 6th grade English, focusing on author's purpose and informational text. So you'll notice that the bot is going to ask me, what would I like the students to know and be able to do? So it's going to push me towards defining those objectives. So I want to identify the author's purpose of the overall text, identify why the author uses a specific kind of evidence, and then I want students to justify evidence in the text. It's going to provide me with a summary of objectives for the escape room and then ask me if that's what I want it to do. Then it's going to ask me the kind of time that I'm looking for and the number of rooms. So I am looking for 3 rooms, 45 minutes. And then it's going to ask me if I want this escape room to be exploratory, where it's sort of like all one space where kids solve the problem in any order, or if I want it to tell a specific story. And for this, I do think that I want it to tell a story. And then it's going to give me an initial outline. So it's going to give a summary, it's going to give a setting description and character description, as well as a script. So as I'm looking here, I'm noticing in this character description, it says the narrator is the voice of the librarian, an enigmatic figure who speaks with a sense of urgency. That's fine, but I do want something to be a little bit more specific. So I can say, please describe the librarian by name and description. Perfect. And now it gives me the librarian, Eleanor Whistler. So this is something that I can modify the description and put into an image generator to get my character. I've also included some peer-reviewed research on the benefits of escape rooms on student learning in terms of engagement and assessment. So those are some really great things that you can check out. And then finally, I have linked the Genie Academy. And that is Genie's professional development. So you can get a micro credential. You can learn all about what Genie is and how to use it. I'm not paid by Genie. I just think that it's a really great tool. And I am so, so happy that you joined me today. Thank you so much for playing. Feel free to scan this QR code to get my information, my contact information, previous experiences, things like that. And please let me know if you ever want to collaborate. Huge thanks to Casey Bell and Shake Up Learning for allowing for this opportunity. And I hope that you have a great day. Bye.